And let me just welcome the Mid-Hudson Regional Economic Development Council. I am very happy we're having this meeting in White Plains today. It only took me 4 minutes to get here. And that's the short commute for someone who usually has to go to downtown or Albany. But we are in the NYPA building, the New York Power Authority, so I want to recognize Gil Quiñones, who is the executive director. So we're in his home today.
His casa.
And his casa, thank you. Thank you, Gil. We're looking forward to hearing your presentation and to catching up on all the wonderful things you've been doing since last year. Let me introduce my colleagues on the SIAT. And the SIAT is the Strategic Implementation Assessment Team. We have Commissioner Roanne Destito here to my left, of Office for General Services. We're missing Matt Driscoll today, okay. Commissioner Roberta Reardon, Department of Labor. Brian Stratton, who's Director of Canals, we're also in his casa, right, because he's part of NYPA now. Sabrina T., President and CEO of Environmental Facilities Corporation. And we're joined today by Assemblywoman Helene Weinstein from the 21st Assembly District. Welcome, Assemblywoman. And Chair of Ways and Means. Let's get an applause for that.
Yay.
And we have one mayor who's on the panel, so we'll hear from him, the mayor of New Rochelle. So you have 45 minutes to wow us. We're already wowed.
No pressure.
We have no pressure at all, but it is Friday. So you have 45 minutes, and then we'll do some rapid-fire Q&As, and we'll be done. You're on.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, members of the SIAT team, elected officials, and others here today. I want to introduce council members and presenters here at the table. My name is Donald Christian. I'm president of the State University of New York at New Paltz and chair of the Mid-Hudson Regional Council. And I'll introduce my colleagues from right to left. Next to me here is Megan Taylor, regional director of Empire State Development's Mid-Hudson office and executive director of our council. Next to her, Dr. Marcia Gordon, president and CEO of the Business Council of Westchester. Mayor Noam Bramson of the city of New Rochelle. Jonathan Drapkin, president and CEO of Hudson Valley Pattern for Progress. Al Samuels, President and CEO of the Rockland Business Association, and Phil Royal, Development Director of Legoland, New York. We're pleased to have this opportunity to share with you the work of the Council for the past year or so as part of Governor Cuomo's bottom-up approach to economic development. Our Council members, as you know, serve on a voluntary basis, and we represent diverse industries and sectors across the region. Here's what we'll cover in our presentation today. We'll start by giving you an overview of how we review and select projects to recommend to you to receive state investment. We'll then look at some performance measures and our progress since the start of Governor Cuomo's REDC initiative in 2011. We'll look at our council's implementation agenda, including our vision and strategy, past priority projects, and some progress on several state initiatives. Those include workforce development, our regional economic cluster program, and Mid-Hudson's opportunity agenda. We'll provide an update on the downtown revitalization initiative rounds 1 and 2, and we'll hear from Mayor Bramson about the vision for New Rochelle's recent downtown revitalization award for round 3. Finally, we'll provide a very brief overview of our council's recommended priority projects for CFA round 8, and we'll share just a couple examples of how Mid-Hudson strategy is being realized in this year's competition. Our council has been committed to a fair and open process, and we continue to prioritize engagement with elected and community stakeholders. Our extensive outreach has led to high participation in the region, as demonstrated by strong application numbers to the DRI and to the CFA process. Through our comprehensive review process, the Council identifies top projects, conducts thorough interviews to vet those projects carefully, and determine which align best with our regional strategy and with the state's strategies and initiatives. Next, we'll show you some of our performance measures. First, focus on all projects awarded CFA funding. From rounds 1 through 7, our projects continue to progress and implement our council's regional strategy, which I'll say more about in just a few minutes. We're really proud to report that 693 Mid-Hudson projects have been awarded funding through the CFA process, and of those, 89% are either complete or progressing. That represents over $2 billion in economic activity over several years, over 7 years, catalyzed by $285 million in strategic state investments. For every $1 that the state has invested in our region through the CFA process, we've generated $7 of economic activity. And investing in these projects is projected to retain more than 13,000 jobs and create more than 6,700 jobs. Our council has recommended 107 awarded projects as priorities since 2011, 85% of which are complete or progressing. Those priority projects generate over $1 billion in economic activity and have a leverage ratio of 14-to-1. They're also projected to retain more than 10,000 jobs and create more than 2,700 jobs. This demonstrates once again the strategic state investments yield a strong ROI in our region. High school graduation rates have grown in the region by more than 3 percentage points since 2011 and are above state averages. That trend bodes well for the workforce readiness of our young people. And high school graduates also have access to higher education at community colleges and four-year colleges and universities, earning degrees and educations that position them to even better realize the American dream. Nearly 1 in 5 of the 2.3 million people who call the region home were born outside of the United States. Our industries depend on immigrants for workforce because regional population growth has been slow and in some areas has actually been negative. Immigrants also pay billions in taxes as consumers and are contributing to the region's growing racial and ethnic diversity. We pay close attention to economic indicators that reflect the important role of our work, even as we recognize that macroeconomic factors contribute to these outcomes as well. Unemployment is the lowest since 2007, and as recently as last month is at 3.5% for the region, an updated figure over what you're seeing there. And that trails only the Capital Region and Long Island. We've seen growth in private sector employment and private sector wages. Visitor spending has grown by 21% since 2011, which we see as a valuable indicator of the positive impact of our investment in regional tourism. Next, we'll go into the Mid-Hudson's implementation agenda. The Council has a clear vision for our region, and our strategy aligns closely with statewide priorities. In supporting projects that implement our strategy, we encourage continued economic growth, reduced unemployment, increased labor participation, and increased wages. As the driving force behind every action, the live, work, and play strategy has led to continued progress toward our vision for a thriving Mid-Hudson economy. Our council imagines a future that includes dynamic community centers featuring businesses in growing industry sectors, residents from all walks of life benefiting from quality employment, and tourist attractions that make the Mid-Hudson a unique destination. The first of our strategies is LIVE, which seeks to revitalize our area's community centers through placemaking, smart growth, transit-oriented development, downtown revitalization, and infrastructure improvements. We believe these efforts will stimulate job creation, inspire innovation, and importantly, prevent youth flight. Our work strategy aims to attract and retain a quality workforce in the region's mature and emerging clusters within the tradable sectors that include biotech in the life sciences, advanced manufacturing, information technology, distribution, as well as financial and professional services. Our council seeks to connect these industries with the Mid-Hudson's many institutions of higher education to create a pipeline for employment and to encourage innovation resulting from business and academic collaboration. Finally, our place strategy positions the region as a premier tourist destination and enhances quality of life for those of us who live and work in the region. Our efforts stimulate growth across related industries, including those in targeted tradable sectors. This strategy encourages development in downtowns, further implementing the state priority of placemaking. So again, our regional strategy of live, work, and play closely aligns with the state priorities of placemaking, innovation, tradable sectors, and workforce. Now we'll go into some highlights of our live, work, and play strategy in action, highlighting just a few sample projects that we've been supporting. Our first example of the live strategy in action is phase 1 of the Hutton Brickyards redevelopment project in Kingston. This former industrial site along the Hudson River waterfront has been transformed into an entertainment and community market venue that's already hosted dozens of successful and very large-scale events. We're also recommending the next phase of this project as a priority project in Round 8. Hudson Valley Lighting built its new world headquarters in Wappingers Falls after outgrowing its rented facility in Newburgh. This is an assembly, distribution, manufacturing, warehousing, and showroom space that will vastly increase the company's ability to design, manufacture, and ship its products worldwide. In addition to ESD capital support, the company was awarded Excelsior Jobs Program tax credits. The walkway over the Hudson State Historic Park is the world's longest elevated pedestrian bridge, built on a defunct railroad bridge over the Hudson River connecting Ulster and Dutchess counties. This has become an international tourist destination and is also used by local residents. 500,000 visitors annually walk, cycle, and run here. As someone who walks the bridge regularly, I often comment to people that I've never seen people unhappy on the bridge. The walkway is part of the Hudson Valley Rail Trail network and will soon be part of the Empire State Trail. Work's underway to establish a welcome center on the east side of the walkway, and the center on the west side opened earlier this year. And now to give us an update on the Legoland New York project, we welcome Phil Royal, Development Director for that project.
Thank you very much, and members of the SIAP team, thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you this morning. As we mentioned, I'm the Development Director for Legoland New York, and the resort that we're bringing to fruition, ready to open in spring of 2020. Just going to play a very, very brief video for you that will just give you an insight as to what our Legoland resorts look like around the world and what will be coming to the Mid-Hudson region in just about 500 days.
Is there an adult section in Legoland?
The whole park is ready for adults, but we don't stop playing because we grow old.
That's a good setup.
that gives you a very brief insight as to what a Legoland Park and Resort is. Legoland Parks and Resorts have been around for about 50 years now, with our first park opened in 1968 in Billund in Denmark. We opened then in 1996 in the United Kingdom, about 2.5 miles away from Her Majesty's Palace in Windsor. 1999 we opened our first park in North America in Carlsbad, California. 2002 we opened in Germany. 2011 we opened our first theme park in the theme park capital of the world in Florida. 2012 we opened in Malaysia, our first foray into the Asian market. 2016 we opened Legoland Dubai. 2017 Legoland Japan. 2020 the largest Legoland park in the world is coming to New York. So a very, very exciting thing. Upsets my friends in the other parks when I can tell them that this will be the largest park. This is what our construction is looking like. A bit of a technical drawing, as it were, but I'll show you some more exciting images shortly. The image across the top, the red box across the top, shows the improvements that we are making to Route 17. And as part of that, we are building our own full-motion interchange, which is the money that we receive from Empire State Development is going to contribute towards the road system that is bringing our guests off of Route 17 directly into the theme park. Now, that couldn't have been done without the funds that we received from the CFA. The theme park is in the middle, the parking is at the back, and we'll have parking for about 5,000 parking spaces. This photo is taken from a drone, taken from the air with Route 17 just kind of in the middle of the shot. And this shows the different coloured areas as part of our resort, with the Legoland Hotel being at the front of the park, with 250 resort-style bedrooms at the theme park. The Lego factory area where children can see how the Lego bricks are made. The world of Ninjago, Lego City, Pirate Shores, and in the heart of any Legoland park is Miniland USA, which is everything that America holds near and dear to its heart, built out of 5 million Lego bricks. This is what the park will look like on its map. So it is a theme park, a children's theme park built for children 2 to 12. Again, we encourage all adults to play with Lego bricks, but we're really concentrating our ride shows and attractions on children 2 to 12. All of the rides are designed for the children to engage with their parents. This is driving school, where the children go through an educational class learning about the rules of the road, how to stop at a stop sign, how to turn at a roundabout, and then they go into their own vehicle. And at the end of that experience, they do get to grab their own driving license as well. The Legoland Hotel then is an opportunity for people to spend the night. Oh, and I'm being interrupted by Lego Lady Liberty, who's just... So we'd like to welcome Lady Liberty. Thank you. Lady Liberty joined us actually 366 days ago, which was yesterday. We announced that Legoland New York was coming to fruition and had been fully approved. So she's now just a year and 1 day old, as her first time was last year. So thank you, Lady Liberty. So to spend the night at a Legoland hotel then, we have 250 bedrooms that you can spend the night staying in the most awesome hotel that you're ever going to stay in. Orange County, the county that we're in at the moment, has approximately 5,500 bedrooms. We'll bring 250 bedrooms to that area. And as time develops over the next year or two, as we develop our resort, we'll see a further 1,200 rooms coming to Orange County. This is what the hotel looks like from the outside. All of the rooms are fully themed with Pirates Adventure Kingdoms, Ninjago and Lego Friends. We do have a 250-seat Bricks family restaurant where children can go and serve themselves. Children check into the hotel on their own. They have to sign a document to say they're checking in. And all of our rooms are highly and fully inspected for monsters before any child moves into their room. Then some of the classes that we teach at the Legoland Park, top left is Dr. Heartbeat, where children learn to program the Lego Mindstorms robot. They feel that they are playing and programming robots, but then that robot goes and moves red and blue balls around a table, and they're actually learning about how blood platelets move around the body system. Jobs, we are working with the unions, and we do have a project labour agreement. We are bringing 800 construction jobs to the region. The park itself will bring 1,300 roles, including 500 full-time jobs in technical trades, management, retail, food and beverage, and administrative roles, 300 part-time, and 500 seasonal. Then lastly, I'll close on this slide, which is Get Ready Hudson Valley. We will attract between 1.5 and 2.5 million visitors a year. We'll have 1,300 jobs. Woodbury Common sees about 14 million visitors a year, 3,000 jobs. Stewart New York International Airport, 300,000 visitors a year, 200 jobs. Bethel Woods, home of the Woodstock Festival, 300,000 visitors a year, 400 jobs. And then recently opened Resorts World Casino in Sullivan County will attract, when it's completed with all of its projects, 4 million visitors a year and 2,400 jobs. So from this day until when we open, there will be the additional 6.8 million more visitors in the Hudson Valley region than there are today, with an additional 3,900 jobs, which is truly fantastic. The area is a corridor for tourism and a corridor for growth. We are incredibly excited and proud to be here, incredibly excited to work with the CFA application process and Megan and her team to make sure that Legoland New York comes to fruition, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Phil.
What is the projected opening date?
Spring 2020.
Thank you, Phil. I'd like to now take us back to our implementation agenda. Our council keeps a sharp focus on workforce development and continues to identify workforce training needs. This year we hosted our first industry roundtable with the help of the Council of Industry, a great partner. Over a dozen regional manufacturers attended this eye-opening discussion, and a key point raised by all manufacturers was the need to engage the next generation of the workforce and foster creating career pathways for students to long-term employment. With our upcoming industry roundtables, we'll work with the hospitality and healthcare firms to better understand the workforce needs of those industries. The Council will develop strategies for students to attain education, identify career pathways, and secure gainful employment that will ensure their future success. Another roundtable is planned to engage representatives from all 7 county veteran services agencies and service-disabled veteran-owned businesses. The MHREDC identified the food and beverage manufacturing supply chain as a manufacturing-based industry cluster to prioritize in 2015. The cluster includes the interrelated sub-industries of food and beverage manufacturing, processing, and equipment. This cluster overall has seen significant growth in our region in both average annual employment and wages. It's hard to ignore the growth of the craft beverage industry, which has had a ripple effect on the Mid-Hudson's economy. To give one example, Equilibrium Brewery was awarded a $204,000 ESD capital grant in round 4. At the close of 2016, Equilibrium completed that $1.14 million project, which was an adaptive reuse of a former meat packing facility in downtown Middletown, Orange County, creating 8 jobs in the process. And the brewery has announced that it's expanding down the street. Our council has identified 11 opportunity area communities to target, with at least 1 in every county. We have 2 goals with this endeavor. One is to move individuals in these impoverished communities into jobs that can sustain them and their families, and secondly, to revitalize distressed communities. An important component of our opportunity agenda is support for projects that provide housing for all income levels. Many of these projects are mixed use and bring amenities that would otherwise not have been available in those communities. One example, Rural Ulster Preservation Company, RUPCO, converted an abandoned former mill property known as the Lace Factory in Midtown Kingston into low-income housing units and artist spaces. That project was awarded in 2013 and 14 by the Office of Homes and Community Renewal. Where am I?
Right there. Yep.
Oops.
Yep.
Since 2011, approximately 34% of all awarded and progressing CFA projects and 47% of all funded and progressing priority projects are located in the Opportunity Agenda communities. New York State is projected to invest over $48 million in Opportunity Agenda communities, with the potential to generate more than $896 million in economic activity in these distressed areas, and that's a leverage ratio of 18 to 1. I'm now pleased to turn the program over to my fellow council member, Dr. Marcia Gordon, who will provide an update on the Downtown Revitalization Initiative.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate that. Want me to switch it? Or I gotta do that? Okay. The Downtown Revitalization Initiative is an essential component to our LIVE strategy. As we all know, vibrant downtowns attract new companies and grow existing businesses, creating new jobs. It's important to note that all 3 DRI winners in our region are Opportunity Agenda communities. The City of Middletown was the round 1 DRI winner in the Mid-Hudson. Downtown Middletown today is thriving and economically viable focal point of the city and surrounding region, welcoming new and diverse residents, businesses, and visitors while remembering and building upon its storied heritage. Downtown Middletown will grow to become a destination and community for people of all ages and backgrounds to live, work, dine, shop, and gather in an attractive, safe, and culturally rich environment. Middletown continues to make progress constructing the Rail Trail Commons, a space for which tenants compete for grants to locate retail shops and improving facades and storefront signage in the downtown area. The City of Kingston Stockade Business District was the round 2 DRI winner in the Mid-Hudson. Uptown Kingston Stockade Business District is the heart of economic revitalization that creates new opportunities for the surrounding neighborhoods, towns, and counties. This revitalization will incubate innovative solutions that will contribute to a regenerative and healthy local living economy that also, again, preserves the cultural and historic character of the area. The DRI projects that were awarded were announced in July 2018. They represent a good cross-section of industry, infrastructure, public amenities, and will assist in the revitalization of the Stockade Business District. We look forward to updating you on these projects as they progress. After reviewing 27 applications in round 3 of the DRI, our council selected the City of New Rochelle's application, congratulations, Mayor,
Thank you,
to revitalize the Lincoln Avenue corridor. We determined that the corridor is ripe for revitalization and has the potential to become a magnet for redevelopment, business growth, job creation, and greater economic and housing diversity. Mayor Bramson didn't want a big introduction. I will say he's an incredible leader. We're so proud to have him as a leader here in Westchester County. And so I'd like to introduce Mayor Bramson, who will speak about his vision for New Rochelle's DRI.
Marcia, thank you very much for those kind words, and I return the sentiments in full. Good morning. Needless to say, New Rochelle was thrilled to be selected as the DRI winner in this round, and delighted now to be working with the exceptionally capable team from the Mid-Hudson region. Madam Secretary, as you pointed out, you live just around the corner, and so you are almost certainly familiar with New Rochelle already. But for our friends from other parts of the state, let me provide you with a very quick orientation. We are a highly diverse community, about 80,000 residents. Many people are surprised to learn that we are, in fact, the 7th largest city in New York State. And in many ways, we are kind of built for growth. We have a talented population. We are in the heart of the New York metropolitan area. We have infrastructure that can accommodate growth, and we have exceptional transit assets. 30 minutes from Grand Central, an Amtrak stop. When Penn Access is completed in a few years, we will also have a direct connection to the west side of Manhattan. And yet, despite that, historically, our downtown has underperformed relative to other population centers in the region, such as White Plains, where we are right now, or Stamford, just across the border in Connecticut. And with an eye towards closing that gap, Council adopted an ambitious downtown development framework, which is increasingly, I think, regarded as a model for similar communities. And it has three key components. A master development agreement with a well-capitalized partner that has an opportunity to develop on publicly owned sites in the downtown area and therefore undertake catalytic projects. A new zoning code that encompasses the entire 300-acre downtown. This is a form-based code, highly flexible on use, and therefore easier to put shovels in the ground, but at the same time prescriptive when it comes to urban design, so that we create an area that is walkable and appealing. And finally, a completed generic environmental review for our entire build-out scheme. And this means that individual projects that fall within our vision do not need to do their own independent EIS, and therefore can avert what would otherwise be upfront expenses and delays and political uncertainties. And what's exciting is that since adoption of this plan, it's really had a dramatic effect. 20 projects that have been approved, many more under discussion, 10 are under construction already, and all of this is aiming towards a 10-year objective of about 6,370 new apartments, 12 million square feet of total build-out. Just to put that in perspective, that's like New York City developing 700,000 apartments. So it is really transformational change for our community, and we think enormously positive. And yet, as far as we have gone, we do recognize that there are still very, very significant challenges that remain. And we believe that economic prosperity really needs to go hand in hand with social equity. And that became the focus of our DRI application in this round. And for that purpose, we identified a specific area that Marcia referenced a moment ago. This is a little bit confusing with a lot of boundaries going on, so let me just kind of clarify. What you see outlined in blue is the downtown overlay zone that I mentioned a moment ago. And what you see outlined in the red dots is what we call the Lincoln Avenue corridor, which, as you can see, partially overlaps and is partially adjacent to the downtown area. And just for your reference, the shaded area is the state's opportunity zone, which also overlaps with this area. Who lives in the Lincoln Avenue corridor? You can see that while our city as a whole is already quite diverse, in the Lincoln Avenue corridor, we have a particularly high concentration of African American and Hispanic population. And it's an area which is very significantly distressed. There is physical underinvestment, a lack of employment. You can see that many of the residents are burdened with high housing costs, and we've seen a flight of millennials and other folks that we want to make sure they have a future in New Rochelle, an opportunity to live in our community. And the best single example of that is the Memorial Highway area. So you can see that is smack dab in the middle of the Lincoln Avenue corridor. And this is kind of our version of the Cross Bronx. It was created back in 1947. It bulldozed a neighborhood, and it severed the remaining neighborhoods from each other. And it's interesting to reflect on kind of the history of how this came about. This was originally intended to be a connection between I-95 to the southeast and the Hutchinson River Parkway and Cross County Parkways, which are off to the northwest. But that yellow portion was never completed.
I was going to say,
and
it
so
never happened, right?
Yeah, you can't get from here to there. And so we were left literally with a highway to nowhere, which is an enormous impediment. So here you have these areas which are close by each other and yet are disconnected. And so all of the work that we plan to undertake with the DRI falls within this red boundary with Memorial Highway at its core. The good news is that we think there are multiple steps that we can take to reclaim and reconnect this neighborhood. And for the purpose of this presentation, I just want to illustrate 3 examples of options that our local planning committee will be considering in the weeks ahead. One, which is enormously exciting, which we're calling the Link, is to literally repurpose Memorial Highway as a linear park. Our version of the High Line, or the West Side Highway Parkland, which would be an enormous open space asset, both for our burgeoning downtown and for Lincoln Avenue residents, as well as a connector for pedestrians and cyclists and others. We think this would be transformational, may involve some changes in traffic patterns, all of which can be accommodated. Second example, opening up the south gateway to our train station, which right now is really inhospitable. We're actually in the process of creating a new roadway which would connect directly to the south gateway and we want to make sure that that area is more friendly and appealing. And we have, under either direct or indirect city control, various sites in our downtown where we could create co-working incubator space, which would create upward mobility options, job opportunities for folks living in the Lincoln Avenue corridor. Again, these are just 3 of several examples of things that we think are actionable and that would make a really impressive difference. In totality, we think that the opportunities in New Rochelle really reflect the planning principles and objectives of the Mid-Hudson region, as well as the state as a whole. And so we're excited about where we've gone and excited about where we're going. And to help kind of illustrate that, I'm going to play a video for you in a moment. It doesn't quite have the panache of the Legoland video. We don't have any fire-breathing dragons or dinosaurs or pirates. And let's face it, everything sounds better with a British accent. So I'm a little bit jealous of that. But I do hope the video shows you the kind of excitement that we feel. And again, the consistency with what I believe the state wants of smaller transit-served communities like New Rochelle that can do so much for the state's overall growth objectives.
I want more buildings to make more of those.
I want a bigger storefront.
Bigger gym. I want to build more champions.
More places to play would be awesome.
I want Main Street to be our Broadway.
I want the energy of Manhattan without going there.
Or at least off Broadway.
I want a creative culture.
I want to build my startup.
I want to spark creativity.
I want more space for public art.
And expand my brand.
I want to build my next legacy.
Growth is about hope,
dreams,
culture, and community.
Very nice. Super excited. I just want you to know that I did make my contribution to New Rock City as I was raising my children. I spent a lot of money there.
On behalf of the taxpayers of New Rochelle, I thank you for your contribution to the common good. Thank you very much for listening to the presentation. And by the way, whenever I'm feeling down, I just put on that video and it kind of cheers me up. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Bramson and Marcia. We'd now like to go over a few of the Mid-Hudson's proposed priority projects for this year's CFA competition. And you can see the full list of proposed priority projects in this year's report. As I present these, I want to be sure it's clear to you that we recognize that these projects may not move forward without support from the state. From about 100 quality applicants, we've endorsed 21 ESD grant fund priority projects that will continue to implement our regional strategy, supporting private investment today to lead the economic growth of tomorrow. These projects generate activity across a broad geographic distribution with a healthy leverage ratio, significant job growth and retention, and balanced support for our 3 strategic areas of live, work, and play. The village of Sleepy Hollow will develop Sleepy Hollow Commons, a public space that will serve as an intersection of local trail and transit connections. Once complete, the transformed site, which was once a vacant, deteriorated industrial area, it was the east parcel of the former General Motors site, will feature a community center, outdoor amphitheater, recreational facilities, green space, parking resources, a public bridge across Metro-North rail lines to the waterfront, and much more. Orange County Community College Association Incorporated will invest to undertake Phase 1 of the Innovation Grand Street project involving the renovation of 2 vacant and underutilized buildings in the city of Newburgh's historic downtown district. The project will create space for training and programming that addresses specific needs for an educated workforce and encourage entrepreneurship in the region's growing industries. The project aims to support the how of small business creation, especially in ethnic communities who face many unique barriers in their business development endeavors. Caribbean Food Delights Incorporated, which is a leading Caribbean frozen food manufacturer of Jamaican-style patties, will expand its current manufacturing facility in the hamlet of Tappan in the town of Orangetown. This expansion will accommodate 2 additional food manufacturing lines and help the company progress toward its goal of increasing its capacity and production capabilities. The Center for Discovery will develop a new research institute for brain and body health, part of a larger investment to transform a vacant commercial property in Rock Hill, town of Thompson, into a state-of-the-art biobehavioral and healthcare facility. The project will include a children's specialty hospital and special education school program serving New York State and beyond. 6 laboratories will allow for pioneering studies in autism spectrum disorders, medical frailties, Alzheimer's and dementia, and other chronic complex conditions. Gopol Farm LLC, which is a biodynamic farm in New Paltz, will construct a creamery and greenhouse structures to expand its capacity to grow traditional heirloom Indian ethnic fruits and vegetables and produce dairy products. 35 Acad Realty LLC will renovate 2 buildings in the center of the business district on Academy Street in the city of Poughkeepsie. Focused on supporting the region's agricultural and food and beverage industries, the project will create a co-working space, coffee shop, food hall, brewery, fresh foods market, a teaching kitchen, and an event space with apartments on upper floors. So in closing, keeping the live, work, and play regional strategy top of mind, our council recognizes that it's time to focus on the here and now to build a prosperous future. It's imperative to work with companies to understand their needs and help them grow, and to continue dialogue with local leaders to ensure that communities flourish. A steady stream of economic activity is vital in the Mid-Hudson, and the support of the state for the proposed priority projects identified in our report will ensure accelerated job creation and a successful tomorrow. Growing tomorrow, building today. Thank you, and with that, we're happy to respond to questions that you might have.
Thank you. So before the first question, I just want to recognize our county executive here in Westchester, George Latimer, who's been with us. Welcome. Please.
You're seeing the dynamism of this county with our Mayor of New Rochelle in his presentation. Appreciate that allocation of resources. You saw the project in Sleepy Hollow, walk the streets of White Plains. I'm not sure if I lived in Brooklyn, if I'm upstate, or if I lived in Rome, that I'm downstate. Whatever we are, we're on the move all across the county, and we're glad you're with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. And with that, we'll go to Sabrina T. for the first question.
Thank you so much for that presentation. It was a really great way to start the day. So, you know, you're on to sort of your 3rd DRI now, and you've obviously spent a lot of time thinking about it. I was wondering, did you have any lessons learned from round 1 and round 2 into this one, and how you applied it, or how you approach things differently?
In choosing the community?
In choosing the communities, yeah.
I think that it was, I'll say something, I'm sure Jonathan can chime in as well. We, through our opportunity agenda that was started back in 2015, there was an extreme focus on various communities that were geographically distributed throughout the region. And what we were trying to do is really understand the challenges and issues that each of these communities were facing. And I have to say that, again, the city of Middletown and the city of Kingston rose to the level of being chosen within those years based on local leadership, based on those communities being ripe for development. And I will say that local leadership, community engagement, community involvement, and really the appetite to get things moving was something that, again, was absolutely seen with Middletown and the city of Kingston. And with New Rochelle this year, you can see how much work has been done leading up to today. And I think that, you know, I can speak for the entire council in saying that New Rochelle is ripe for development. They are on the cusp of some really fantastic and exciting projects, and we're really looking forward to working with them and bringing them to fruition.
It is impressive. Assemblywoman?
I was wondering if someone could comment on the resorts casino. I know last year there was some concern about being able to get employees in terms of the lack of public transportation in Sullivan County. So I was just wondering if we could get an update on what's happening with the casino and where that's projected.
Yep. Jonathan, do you want to take it?
Sure. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So I think that the challenge really was that the casino, due to its owner, had to open 3 months early. And that meant that the planning that was put into place by the team there was put to a little bit of a challenge. It is a very difficult thing to open a casino. It requires a great deal of training, and to do so in an environment where the unemployment rate is low historically almost in Sullivan County, throughout the region, and quite honestly, it's a national issue. So the recruitment of jobs has always been a challenge and will always be an issue there because there's initially like a 30% turnover rate when a casino will open. But I encourage you to come visit and see it for your own eyes. I live in Sullivan County. It was quite an accomplishment to get it done quickly, to get it done and open. And now the other components are coming online. There'll be another water park there as well, fully framed and ready to open. So I actually think they've overcome the initial hurdle in what was a difficult environment not of their making. So I think it's doing great.
And and just as a follow-up, in terms of Legoland then being, I guess about 30 minutes or 20 minutes south of the casino, is there any, I know that there's some traffic improvements that are being made off of 17, but you feel confident that people will still be able to access get north of Goshen to access the casino and other parts of Sullivan County?
To echo what Jonathan said, the casino is still not necessarily complete in its entirety as a resort. It will open its water park early Q1, Q2 of next year, and I think once that completes, it will truly make the Resorts World Casino a destination in Sullivan County. They're very complementary. Legoland New York, the people coming to our resort are very, very different to the people that are going to the casino. It doesn't concern us at all. It doesn't concern the casino at all, and I think that people are never going to come just to go to one thing. People are now going to come to the Mid-Hudson region, and especially the area that we're in. They're going to spend a couple of days with us, then they're going to go and spend a couple of days with the casino, and I think that's what will now make people's destination is rather than a one-night stay, it's now a multi-night stay across different types of properties.
So,
and just to add, go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, Phil's point's well taken, which is that what's happening, and I think we talked about it last year, is this corridor that's occurring from Woodbury Common all the way up to Bethel Woods. Thanks to the state redesigning the interchange at Woodbury Commons, a lot of that that's the choke point, is being redesigned. Phil already mentioned that for their site, they're redesigning a complete interchange, which is going to help a lot. So really, there's even groups currently looking at the pros and cons of a third lane on Route 17. So, but so far so good. And it gets a little crazy when our summertime population comes up, but that's okay. We welcome everyone.
Commissioner.
Thank you. First of all, Mayor Bramson, I met you about a year ago, I think. We worked on a project, and I was excited about your ideas then, even more so now. So congratulations on your winning the DRI.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to working with you and getting our project completed. I love the live, work, and play theme of the Mid-Hudson. It's great. Can you just give us some ideas of how, the Legoland and the casino, what Mayor Bramson is doing in New Rochelle, how will you attract and keep the young 18 to 24-year-olds here? The video was great. People wanting to begin their legacy. I love Mariano Rivera, so you got me right there. But what strategies are you using to keep the 18 to 24? You're so close to a larger metropolitan area. And I know in our upstate area, every young person wants to, go to the city.
Yep. So I think it's, I'll say a quick couple of points, and then I'm sure my fellow council members will have some other comments. But I think it's really a multifaceted approach. So as we mentioned before, a key component of the LIVE strategy is also creating housing opportunities for all income levels, right? Regardless of if you have a job at an entry-level position at a great company, or your income is just not one that can sustain itself in certain areas. But what's been fantastic is that we've seen some very significant housing projects pop up in a lot of our core downtown areas throughout the region. Newburgh, Middletown, Kingston, Poughkeepsie, and these housing developments that are being constructed really are multifaceted, and they include the amenities that the young people are looking for. So they are transit-oriented development projects. Again, they have the amenities that folks are looking for, that young individuals are looking for. You're in areas that are walkable to various restaurants and theaters and different artist installations and really creative spaces. So a lot of the housing developments, again, have been live workspaces or even artist spaces. And then in addition to that, too, as we mentioned before, with our workforce development efforts going into next year, what we're really trying to focus on is career pathways that can be identified, whether that's in manufacturing or hospitality or healthcare. That's where our focus is going to be. But those career pathways really start with students that are in elementary and middle school, not necessarily those folks that are already graduated from college and have an idea of what they want to do. And what we've heard from employers that we've dealt with or that we've spoken to so far is that if you're speaking to individuals that have already graduated from college, it's too late. They don't necessarily, it's going to be very difficult to identify career pathways that may enable them to stay here and grow and live and build families here. So again, what we're going to really try to do is, one, create opportunities to continue to have housing opportunities for those individuals and affordable housing that they can stay here, but also create career pathways so that they can actually have a job here in the Mid-Hudson, where they will be able to, really have an income to be able to stay here and hopefully to be able to live for a very long time and grow a family here.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
If I could just, first of all, it's such an important question, Roanne. I mean, the region has lost about 250,000 in population between 18 and 40 over the last generation. That's like all of Yonkers picking up and leaving.
Right.
And that's our future. And yet we really do think there's an opportunity consistent with the principles that Megan just outlined. I mean, what is it that younger people are looking for? They're looking for proximity and easy access to jobs. Well, in New Rochelle and similar communities around the area, you can get into the heart of Manhattan more easily than you can from Brooklyn and Queens. So we have that great proximity to the core of the metropolitan area. They're looking for housing opportunities that are accessible. Even our market rate housing is a fraction of what you would pay in the heart of the big city, and yet you can get an urban experience with all the cultural vitality and the walkability that's associated with that. And beyond that, in New Rochelle, and I know many other communities, we have affordable housing requirements that provide lower price points, as well as housing types that are particularly geared for millennials. For example, one of our projects called the Print House has small living space but extensive shared space. It's almost like a grown-up dormitory, and consistent with the preferences that many younger people are expressing. We have another project entirely affordable that's being marketed exclusively for artists. So there are these different strategies we can employ both on a micro level with individual projects and the total environment that we're creating that we think is going to re-attract that generation that we really need into our region.
Great. Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you very much. Council members, Chair, great presentation. Very, very exciting, easy to follow, very inspiring. Mayor, you've done a fantastic job. I know as my former time as a mayor in an upstate city, that kind of investment that you're receiving, $10 million, is truly transformational. Roanne touched on many of the things that I was going to ask you about, housing and your strategy. But so often in a DRI, in getting the younger people to live in your community, you have to have what is called the cool factor. Can you touch on one or two things within New Rochelle that makes it hip and makes it cool, so that you're going to have the young folks that want to live there?
I can try. My kids would probably say I'm the least qualified person to answer your question, but I'm gonna do my best. And I should note that our development commissioner, Louisa Aragon, is here, and I think he has been particularly creative and imaginative in tackling exactly the challenge that you mentioned. So a few examples. We have the first installations in Westchester of high-speed Wi-Fi kiosks all around the downtown, which are great information portals in and of themselves. It also creates high-speed Wi-Fi hotspots that are free throughout the area, so there's that connectivity that people are looking for. We have the first bike share program in Westchester County up and running. That is a service in direct terms, but I think it is also, for many people, a signal of the kinds of values that the community is embracing, and ones that's consistent with that kind of cool and hip feeling. Public art has been a big part of what we've rolled out. Just a few weeks ago, new sculptures, all using our NRNY logo, done by multiple artists, including some who are world famous. Charles Vizino, the pop artist who's commemorated some of the most prominent events and locations around the world. He donated one of them. His studios is right in New Rochelle. And maybe the most exciting, it's an initiative called IDEA that's been spearheaded by our Business Improvement District. And this is an effort to incorporate immersive technology. That's virtual reality, augmented reality, motion capture technology. We hope to build that into a black box theater that's being built at the base of one of the new projects. We have a working space at the top floor of our train station that provides fellowships for artists who specialize in immersive technology. And Bloomberg Philanthropies named us one of 35 champion cities around the country for a tool, an open source application that will enable people to co-design public spaces using VR and AR. And this is kind of getting a lot of buzz in the community among people who... So I think all of those things collectively, as well as, again, the basic design and walkability and design features that we're incorporating into the downtown plan, will hopefully make us as hip as possible.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I think that is pretty cool. So I have two questions.
I just wanted to, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
No? Okay, thank you. Just from an administrative thing to complement this, we are a regional organization. So my three millennials live in Nyack, Beacon, and in Poughkeepsie downtown. And what they do on their own is they've created an umbrella for all of the county young professional organizations in order to meet with them and start to generate a regional buzz about why the Hudson Valley is a cool place to live.
That's very good. Thank you.
I love that everyone is trying to keep their millennials. I'm trying to get mine to move out, but they can move up into Poughkeepsie. But I have two questions. One is kind of a broader question. When we were in Kingston last year, we talked a lot about developing train, accessibility for that part of your region that doesn't really have access to Metro North. So I wonder if you've done a lot of thinking about that. And I have to ask, I know Commissioner Reardon is on a call, so I would be remiss if I didn't include her question about workforce with Legoland and all of this exciting. I know we have a number of jobs that would be permanent jobs created, but what's the number of jobs in the buildup, and how are we making sure that kind of the traditionally hard to employ, people coming out of prison, people coming out of poverty, how are we making sure as a region that we're addressing their employment or workforce needs?
So in terms of the transportation question first, I think that, one of the things that, again, we've been trying to focus on is various projects that really are transit-oriented development, as I mentioned before, but also understanding that a portion of the region does not necessarily have great access to Metro North. And I think that some of the initiatives in terms of busing routes in various counties, whether that be in Orange or Ulster or Sullivan County, is again trying to be implemented to really supplement and complement the Metro North accessibility on the opposite side of the river. And in addition to that, too, there is we've been in discussions with a few other communities in Rockland and then in Westchester as well on additional ferry service that could be potentially provided in the future. So right now there is ferry service between Ossining and Haverstraw, and then also Newburgh and Beacon. But we are looking and trying to uncover additional opportunities to have additional ferry services up and down the Hudson River, really again complementing the connectivity and transportation access on both sides, east and west of the Hudson. And then in terms of workforce development, I know Phil can speak a little bit to the work that Legoland specifically has been doing in terms of trying to identify, talented workforce. But just speaking about the hard-to-place workers for a moment. So you're all very familiar with Grayston Foundation and Grayston Bakery. We've spoken about them many, many times, and they actually have a fantastic project before us this year that we did propose as one of our priority projects. And that project really does involve the Grayston Foundation to really revitalize and really complement their they're going to be doing capital investments on their Center for Open Hiring. So as you know, there's the Grayston Foundation and then Grayston Bakery. Grayston Bakery is an operational, fantastic bakery. They make delicious brownies that are in a lot of our Ben & Jerry's ice cream that we all eat. And it is a catalyst to this open hiring model. And what the project before us this year is really to build out the open hiring institution in Southwest Yonkers where they are currently today. So in that building, what they are hoping to do is really have that be a center where they can bring other businesses that are looking to implement this open hiring model in their actual, day-to-day operations as well. So the idea, again, is to really spread the word on this open hiring initiative, explain to other companies outside of Grayston Bakery how this can be successful and how these businesses really can be a catalyst to employing this hard-to-place population. And then in addition to that, there's actually, I know you are all also very familiar with Bread Alone Bakery on Lake Katrine. I think you guys had some Bread Alone bread this morning.
That was a year ago. We haven't had any.
We haven't had any recently.
We will. If you haven't already, I know it's waiting for you, so we will make sure that you have that. But
it's in the break.
I found out.
I will say, so they Bread Alone is also very much focusing on the hard-to-place population in and around their various facilities. They have apprenticeship programs for recent parolees that has actually been extremely successful. They are continuing to hire really tremendous amounts of employees, and again, many of them in this hard-to-place category. So I think that, in short, there are a few key businesses throughout the region that are really focused on tapping into this workforce population that many others are not. And again, as we know, with the unemployment rate as low as it is, we need to identify quality workers. And these hard-to-place workers are fantastic. They just need some help to a position that can make them successful. So, those are two, I would say, key flagship businesses that are implementing these, and we're going to continue to work with other businesses throughout the region through the industry workforce development roundtables that we're planning going into next year, and hopefully implement many of those best practices and key strategies that have been successful for others.
From our perspective, as an equal opportunities employer, we're an international company. We've got people from all around the world. We've been working over the last 2.5 years to work with the SUNY program and the BOCES program to make sure that we can educate young people into the idea of hospitality. Not many people grow up thinking, I want to work at a theme park, but once you learn hospitality, it opens the doors to many. They're fantastic. It opens the doors to many, many other careers. We're also, and Megan's been supporting this, we've been working with our transportation partners within Orange County to look at a public-private opportunity that we've seen very successfully in Florida, where the local busing company lost its state funding, and it reached out to private entities such as ourselves to support those bus routes. And it means that person A works for such and such a company or Legoland, and they are sat next to another person who doesn't work for one of these supportive companies, but they don't realize that person A has joined that bus service for free. And so Legoland Florida Resort gets to place its team members on the buses for free, and those bus routes serve, you know, the general public as well. So we brought those transportation partners up. Just 3-4 weeks ago, spoke to a room of all of the transportation partners and the people within Orange County to really look at how we can improve busing to our 3 cities, you know, Middletown and Newburgh being the main priorities, along with Port Jervis. And I think that will really support businesses like us to get to people who really want to work, but they can't necessarily get to a job or they haven't got the transportation. So we're going to look at bringing them to us, and then they can get the jobs that they need.
Great.
Megan,
But also, are we getting those local folks the jobs on the construction side, on the, you know, on the build up?
Absolutely. We're part of a project labor agreement, which takes from the 7
They got a
counties. So
PLA.
yes.
Okay.
I'd like to add to that, if
Yeah.
I might. Our workforce work group, and Megan alluded to it, next month we'll have the next of our roundtables addressing the issues of the hospitality industry, and this is paramount in that discussion. We have been working with folks to come up with new methodologies of reaching out to people in these difficult areas, and one of them that wasn't mentioned were veterans. Clearly, veterans have been very difficult to bring back into the civilian workforce. It's a phenomenon that started after Vietnam. We've seen it for 50 years. But I think that we've come up with an approach that just might work, because what we're trying to do is to reach the vet with language that they understand and are comfortable with, and will make them feel like we know who they are and the value they have. And it's basically an MOS plan, military occupational specialties. We're working with the hospitality industry, we're working with the construction industry, and what we're doing is identifying civilian jobs by identifying the corresponding MOS that the veterans would have had in the military. And when we reach out, we're going to reach out. If this was your MOS, and it would be different for each branch, we have a job for you. Just to establish a comfort level that doesn't exist. And the idea of a comfort level is something that we also want to employ in outreach to minority, outreach to impoverished, outreach to former incarcerated people.
Thank you. And so we have time for a question from our
So I'm sorry I missed part of this session. I had a call I had to do. However, to your comment and to the earlier comment about workforce training, I know that in earlier reports you had talked about internships. Very important way of getting people engaged in the workforce and the idea of that kind of workforce. Have you given any thought to registered apprenticeships outside of the building trades? My friend from the building trade here, and we're very proud of the training programs that they run. I always say they're the gold standard, but it is a form of training that we are really eager to expand beyond building trades, and we are actually looking at the hospitality industry and healthcare specifically. So we would love to sit down and talk with you about a registered apprenticeship program, because it's a great way to hire someone. You actually have a job and get the required instruction and the training at the same time. Is that a conversation? I'm sorry that you
Timing is perfect, because November we address hospitality, and after that we address healthcare.
Invite me.
Yes.
We welcome that conversation.
All right, our chair,
Absolutely.
Jackie Leventoff, is here with us today. She'll take care of that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
And Commissioner, I will say too that one of the pieces of information that I think was really pivotal for us to understand coming out of the manufacturers roundtable that we did hold was that we did learn that there are small to mid-sized manufacturing companies that are implementing apprenticeship programs that we weren't aware of.
Yes.
And they are successful, and they
Yes.
have actually seen that the most successful employees are those that start in the apprenticeship program. So we are really trying to obtain the best practices from those companies and implement those in other advanced manufacturing businesses, but also other key industries that we will be focusing on moving forward.
As a matter of fact, Megan, if I could just say a great example, there's a company, D&D Elevator. They are a long-time family-owned elevator company, and they have set up an apprenticeship training program in Yonkers.
And let me say that that is the biggest industry that needs workers in it.
Yeah.
So,
to the apprenticeship conversation, we always urge people to do a New York State registered apprenticeship because it has requirements that go across the industry, and when that worker completes that training, they have a certificate. So they're not just training for that employer, they're training for the industry. The other thing is MACNY in Central New York, Randy Wolkin, they have created an apprenticeship model that is sponsored by MACNY, not by the individual employer, not unlike what they do in the building trade. So when you have a sector, you know, like a group of manufacturers or a group of hospitality people, they can come together as a group to sponsor the program. It's less expensive for the individual company, and it's better for the industry. So we would love to have that conversation.
Love to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
For sure. Definitely.
So congratulations. Thank you for starting. Thank you for starting our Friday on such an optimistic. This has been really exciting presentation, and good luck to you.
And Lady Liberty visited us.
And Lady Liberty.
Thank you so much for that.